family. Welcome back to the Israel Collective podcast. It's great to be here with you. And today I have a very special guest, Chrysandra Brunson, the founder of The Calling and also an Israel Collective alumni. What's up, Israel Collective?
What's good, IC?
Hey, IC fam.
This is Israel Collective.
Chrysandra, say hello to everyone.
Hello. It's so great to be with you, Destiny. This is such an honor, and I'm just thrilled to be with you today.
I'm so glad. Chrysandra, you are an Israel Collective alumni from quite a while ago. When was your first Israel Collective trip?
So I want to say, Destiny, it was 2016, which is hard to believe that it was so long ago in the fall. And I got this random text being invited, and maybe I'll just throw the name out there, Kyle Negretti. He was just so kind, and he's like, Chrysandra, do you want to go on a free trip to Israel? And I was like, yeah, this must be a joke. Like, he's kidding with me. And then just unpacked like the mission behind it and the vision, and my life has been transformed ever since.
Wow. And I remember your trip because you and I didn't know each other at the time, but I was living in Israel as a graduate student.
Yes.
And some of the people on your trip were friends of mine. And so I met up with them just to like hang out with like a group of Israel Collective
Yes.
people. And you were on that trip.
Yes. I remember meeting you, Destiny, and I was like, oh, this woman is like a Wonder Woman living in Israel, being a graduate student, getting your master's. I mean, it was very epic to hear your legacy, and it was so fun that that's where we got to meet each other.
So neat, so neat. And speaking of building legacy, your nonprofit that you started, The Calling, tell us a bit about what you do and the mission behind it, and when did you start it?
Yes, would love to share about it. The Calling, I started it as a senior in high school, and God, Jesus just really spoke to my heart, and he was like, Chrysandra, so many of my children are afraid to go after the things I'm calling them to. Tell them not to be afraid. And so at The Calling, we have realized that so many people are afraid to go after the things that Jesus has called each one of us to, because they're afraid to fail. And it's just plain wrong, because if God has given us a dream and we're not living it out, we really are wasting it. And we don't want people to live with regret, and we want them to be able to experience that eternal legacy. And we love being able to help activate people's callings. So we just challenge people to look inside their hearts and ask, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail, of all ages, young and old? And then help them activate it through workshops, conferences, one-on-ones. But we have a special heartbeat for global conferences. So, yes, it's what I feel like I've been born to do.
Wow.
It's been neat.
Wow. I love that, because, our callings, our dreams, our destiny,
Yes.
if you will, it's so much bigger than us as individuals. There are so many people on the other side of our obedience, and so many people impacted by our purpose. And so I just think it's so beautiful and special that your calling is helping other people fulfill that calling on their life.
Oh, thank you, Destiny. You know what's so funny too is that in the Lord, like planting the seed of the calling in my life, I felt lost in my calling. Like I didn't know what I was called to do. And it was in the background of a class project, but everyone seemed to know what their project, quote unquote, or their purpose in life. And I just felt so lost. And I think the beautiful thing is that Jesus finds us when we're really seeking him. And it's usually when we least expect it. And mine was in the middle of a passing period in high school. So, I mean, if he can stop and pivot someone in the middle of a 5A high school passing period, he can do just about anything.
Wow, that's awesome. I also found Israel when I was in high school. Wow. I don't know if I have ever told you that.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
When I was a senior in high school, I wasn't even planning on going to college.
Uh-huh.
I really wasn't. But I just felt like the Lord was directing me to go to the University of Missouri, and that's the door that opened. Everything else seemed just stressful, and I didn't have peace about it, and I just randomly selected international studies to major in because I was like, I like to travel, international studies. And when I was I had just gotten accepted to the University of Missouri, and one of the representatives from Christians United for Israel on campus had been passing through my town, and he called up my pastor and said, hey, do you have any college students that we could get involved in our campus program? And my pastor said, no,
Yeah.
I don't have any college students, but there's a couple of high school seniors in my church that are starting college in the fall.
Wow.
So we had lunch. Yeah. So we had lunch with this rep from Kufi on campus, and he was just like making this case for why we should get involved with Israel and why we should learn more about it. And I knew that it was a biblical value, but I wasn't really interested in it. But I was interested in apologetics. And so something that really got my attention was this guy. He said, you know, we as Christians, we have a responsibility to learn more about Israel and learn about what's happening to Israel, because God's word says my people perish for lack of knowledge. And that had gotten my attention because I was so passionate about apologetics at the time.
Yes.
That was spring 2011.
Oh my gosh, Destiny.
Yeah, and here we are. So, I mean, it really, like, the opportunities and the ideas that you explore when you're a child, it doesn't have to be a huge, like, flashing billboard saying, oh, this is your calling. Like, sometimes it's just a school project that you just pursue, and you're curious about it, and then you take another step, and then you take another step.
Yes.
And before long, here you are on the Israel Collective podcast, talking to you.
I'm so humbled, and Destiny, you are the epitome of someone living out your God-given calling, and you know, the zeal and the passion and the vision that you get to have, you know, with Jesus just calling us outside of our comfort zones, outside of the boat. We can talk about the Sea of Galilee. Like, he literally, that is where we see the wonders and the miracles come alive in our modern day. And I just see that in and through you. So thank you for being like the poster child of Jesus's heartbeat of what it looks like to say yes to him every moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
You know, speaking of the Sea of Galilee, on our trip, I thought it was so special that so we went on a solidarity trip, right? And we went with the purpose and the goal of really confronting the horrors of October 7th and hearing firsthand from people who experienced October 7th for themselves, or people who had been evacuated from their homes, people who had families held hostage in Gaza, and to start this really challenging experience, your second trip with the Israel Collective now, to start this experience, we went to the Sea of Galilee, and that was the foundation of our trip. And I thought it was so special to just acknowledge that, yes, there's so many chaotic things happening in the world right now, and Israel faces such darkness and challenges, but we serve a God who, when he speaks, the waves and wind stop.
Yes.
What was that experience like for you? Like, did you have a similar experience on the Sea of Galilee?
Yes. I think, Destiny, just leading up to the trip, and for all of us, entering into a nation that's in war is something that the high majority of everyone that said yes to go on the trip or even was invited to have never been a part of. And for the Lord to be able to entrust us with being a part of time in history in that moment, and then preparing for it and hearing like all the scares, the bewares, and then to actually land in Israel and immediately go, walk through the airport and seeing the hostages, like each one of their pictures, and just taking in that this is this is different. This is that we are in a shift of time, and it is so important and so vital for us to take up and to walk out on the waters that Jesus has called us to, and for us to go on the bus to the Sea of Galilee right away and up to our rooms. And we had a little bit of we had like 15 minutes to get ready for dinner, and then during that time each one of us had our own rooms, which was so special, just to have time with the Lord too, alone, but to look out on the Sea of Galilee and to just know that this is where he's called us to walk out in faith and step out in faith for such a time as this. And so I think that it was a shift of posture in this timing. So we referenced Mordecai and Esther quite a bit on our trip, but especially just knowing that Mordecai warned Esther that if you don't rise up for such a time as this, then God will call someone else. But don't you want to be used by God? And who knows that you have been in this royal position for this time? And not saying that we're all royals, but we all, each one of us, every person on this planet has a position of power, whether it's with your family, whether it's your community, to voice what we are going to see. And so I think just being on the Sea of Galilee, starting off our trip, it positioned that heart posture to know that it's vital for us to be in this time and season to speak up for the least of these, and for the nation of Israel, and for Jesus's home and our future home as believers, and for the Jewish people. It's part of our destinies. So it was very, very special. And then, I have to say, we saw fish actually in a boat when we walked out the boat. So that was pretty neat.
That is neat. That is so neat. I'm glad you mentioned our hotel rooms, because I had kind of forgotten about this experience until you mentioned our hotel rooms. But we had beautiful views of the Sea of Galilee, and beautiful balconies on each of our rooms. And we also had jet lag.
Yes.
We also were waking up incredibly early. And so just with that time in the morning, I'm really not, how do I say this? I love to read scripture in the morning and have quiet time with the Lord in the morning, and just delight in God's promises, and that, just in
Me
that
too.
Precious, quiet morning time.
Yeah.
But lately, I really haven't been a morning person, to be honest. I've been hitting snooze more than I ever have in my life recently. So just that special.
It's because morning is
quiet
so
time
many
in the
different.
morning.
It's so different for you.
I know. It's just I've got a lot more on my plate, and so having those mornings where I was jet lagged, so I was waking up incredibly early and still feeling pretty well rested, to just from my balcony crack open my Bible and just declare God's promises over Israel.
Yes.
I just cracked open my Bible to Psalm 91, and I was like, Israel, no evil will conquer you.
Yeah.
Though 1,000 fall at your right side, though, however many on your other side, these evils will not harm you.
Yeah.
And it just was so special to have that quiet time, and to be looking at the Sea of Galilee and declare those scriptures over Israel.
Yeah.
Because you're right, this is the moment for everyone to step it up. It isn't enough to passively support Israel anymore.
Yeah.
Now is the moment that we are all called to speak up for such a time as this, because Israel and the Jewish people need our support and our active advocacy like this generation has never seen.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's vital for all of us to know that with COVID, I think it just kind of led the way. But so for us to be able to be there as eyewitnesses to what happened on October 7th was life-changing.
Yeah. And I like what you said about, we are grafted into this. So we could feel like, oh, this isn't our problem. We aren't Jewish. We aren't Israeli. So anti-Semitism isn't our problem. Israel's security isn't our problem. but we've been grafted into this legacy. We've been grafted into the story of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really special, but there's also a responsibility that comes with it.
Right. I'm trying to remember, Destiny, what we heard, but it said whatever you see, you're responsible for. And so when taking that to heart and seeing firsthand of the brutality and the hatred.
So you mentioned we were confronted with pure evil when we visited Israel on our solidarity trip, or at least the aftermath of it. I remember you and I were in a house that 4 women had been sexually assaulted in. And the house was just ashes almost. What was that experience like for you, confronting that evil?
I'm just, even while you're mentioning it, I have goosebumps, and just the horror that you felt walking in there, that these women had to experience. When you walked in there, you felt the presence of evil, and me and CME and you, we were all in there, and I just remember seeing just all of the trash on the ground that are just, house-made products, that this was their home, this was where they lived, there was clothing on the ground, food, this was their home that was torched, and that they were raped. And we kept on looking around. I think there was so much to take in that we didn't really realize that this back room, as you stepped into it, it was darker, and you've noticed that there was even more ashes on the wall, and on the ground there was actually a pillow, and there were undergarments on the ground that were, they were all torn. But to see that, and to just imagine what these women had to go through, that no human soul should have ever had to endure. The only thing that Sammy and I had left to do in that back room is we just started praying, and we just prayed that the Lord had covered those women's hearts, and that they were blacked out during that time of horror, and that just Satan would be casted out of all those men's hearts that are seeing that these not only build back what was lost, but to build it bigger and better, and to be able to have even more community events, to be able to show that they will not be bullied and they won't be terrorized. And for all of us that took eyewitness in this, that we will not tolerate that, and we will fight back. And it starts with speaking up.
Absolutely. I love the picture that you just described of beauty blooming through the window of this house that was ashes, almost completely ashes. We also, so this kibbutz that Chrysandra and I are talking about is called Re'im, and it's right next to the Gaza border, but it's also right next to the Nova Music Festival site, which is where hundreds of young people were at a music festival on October 7th, and hundreds of young people were killed at this music festival. And we went there, and there were just pictures of young people, memorials to young people whose lives were lost on that day. But there were also red flowers growing throughout the fields, and and it's, it's hard to it's really hard to like picture and wrap your mind around such evil and darkness taking place, where something so horrific and inhumane happened. It's also, I think, also a picture of promise and a picture of, restoration. There's a saying in Hebrew, Am Israel Chai, the people of Israel live.
Yes.
And that's what I kept thinking every time we see those flowers blooming.
Yeah.
this darkness will not destroy the people of Israel.
Yeah.
The people of Israel live.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And yeah, just like at the music festival, just to see, I love that they don't take a big number for granted. They're taking every single human soul one by one, has a family, they are worth, even if it was one of them that was taken, the whole nation should still fight. Almost like what Jesus tells us, like if one is lost, like how, like he's gonna go after him, and that's what we're meant to do as well. And so even just wearing the necklace to be able to bring the hostages back, I think, Destiny, I love that you brought up the red pop. I think like the red poppies is their national flower, and there were red poppies all over that site. But for them to have gone through this, I think as an American, you don't think that those things could necessarily happen if you haven't been around it. Like there's little experiences here and there, but yeah, it was very humbling. And I think all of us, we all love chatting and talking about the day, but we were all, I think we just had to be before the Lord to know what to do and how to take action appropriately with consuming this eyewitness scenario to the horror. And even just imagining if you were there, what you would do,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you really put yourself in the people's shoes, and I think it really helps. It helped me process by thinking about one person.
Right.
Like there was one picture that, I don't know, just sometimes someone, you see their picture and you just connect with them,
Mm-hmm.
and just something about them draws you.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a picture of a girl at the Nova Music Festival site, and just something about her picture just drew me. And I thought, if this was me, would Israel's enemies in America care? Like, would they be moved if this was my picture up there? And to what you're saying, you said something really interesting. Jesus tells us about leaving the 99 to find the one, and to care for the one. And I've never thought about this before, but in Judaism, if you save one person, that's the equivalent of saving the whole world. And I've never made that connection before to that teaching of Jesus. Yeah, of leaving the 99 for the one, because that's the whole world. You're changing one person's entire world.
Wow.
And and so I just encourage anyone who feels overwhelmed by the numbers of hostages still in Gaza, or anyone feeling overwhelmed by the amount of hurt in the world, if you can focus in on one person and encouraging one person or praying for one person, that will impact that one person's entire world.
Amen. That is so powerful. It is, and it's so true. And, I think for all of us today, like maybe just to take one person that we see and pray for them by name every single day, and then maybe find the number of hostages that are left. I think each of us that are tuning in, we have enough people at our schools or churches or communities or businesses that each one of them could be prayed by name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Or even just, picking one person that you pray for every day.
Yeah.
There was a woman a woman named Judy, who is held captive in Gaza right now. She was killed, but her body is still in Gaza, I believe. I've been praying for her and her family since October 7th. And, just like, it can feel really overwhelming when you hear about the numbers of people, because it just feels like so much pain. How can I make a difference?
Yeah.
Just start with one.
Yeah. Start with one. And I think, Destiny, I remember that this was such an abstract idea, like a dream in your heart of what the Lord could do, and for you and Shari to be able to bring it together. You changed, like, I'm one person and you changed my life, and so just thank you for doing that. And I think all of us need to know it is such a ripple effect of how we can change the world through one person at a time. So, but yeah, I think that was just so beautiful that their pictures weren't, it wasn't just this huge number, but it was a picture with a name, their age, and I think that was just really special about Israel in general, like the culture, and especially for the Jewish culture. But it was just, I think that it just sets the nation of Israel apart in a huge way.
Well, Chrysandra Brunson, thank you so much for joining us today. Israel Collective family, we'll see you next time. Bye.
We want to thank you so very much for joining us on this episode of the Israel Collective podcast.
We invite you to continue the conversation with us. Stay connected by subscribing, share your insights by commenting, and don't forget to be a light in the darkness.
So once again, like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell so you get all the information from us.